Check out monorail.com, America's affordable investment app, made for conservatives who want to keep their hard-earned money with companies that share their values. Download the Monorail app today. Join Monorail. Hello, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. Because I am committed to my job, I've gone through every word of President Biden's State of the Union address. And we'll be playing and analyzing clips from it. I have to admit, in having done this now for about 30 years, analyzing the speeches of presidents, Democrat and Republican, this speech was the most difficult because it had nothing in it. There's nothing to analyze. This country is in such terrible shape. More Americans are pessimistic about this country, both parties, than in the history of assessing such matters in American history. And we get discussions of the right of a McDonald's employee to stay at McDonald's or leave McDonald's and be penalized for leaving McDonald's for Burger King. And all the resort-like fees tacked on to your hotel bill. Having, as I stay in hotels, I don't know, about 60 nights a year, and I'm aware of the bill. Now you'll say, well, in my tax bracket of income, it won't matter to me much. But I look at it. Do you know where there are massive taxes? Well, I gave the punchline away. Do you know where there are massive additions to bills, like in rental car and hotels? From city taxes, because they know that it doesn't affect the people who live in their city. My rental car bill, if I rent a car for $100 a day, my bill will come out to about $200 because of the additional taxes added on. I should bring in my bill next time. I think I once did, but I don't recall. Of all the taxes that are added on. Anyway, the larger picture is this. This country is threatened from within for the first time in its history since the Civil War. Free speech is not dead, of course. I'm speaking. But it is threatened for the first time in American history, with the possible exception of Woodrow Wilson, shockingly, a college president and Democrat during World War I. Otherwise, it has never been this threatened. And places like California warn you, as I live in California, I well know, about the possibility of no electricity on hot days in the summer. And the gasoline price in California being so high because of taxes. Anyway, the larger picture is the country is in bad shape, and largely because of what has been done by his party and his ideology, the progressive leftist ideology. One can make the argument that Putin would never have invaded Ukraine to begin with if Donald Trump had been reelected. I asked one of the leading historians in the world, who was my friend there at Stanford? Neil Ferguson, formerly of Harvard. I had no idea what he would say, since I knew he wouldn't give any political answer, but an honest answer. As one of the clearest assessors of the modern world, and of course of history, do you believe, I had no idea what he would answer, that if Donald Trump were president, Putin would have invaded Ukraine? And without hesitation, he answered, no. He would not have invaded Ukraine. Anyway, you might say, well, how do you know? Of course you don't know. You don't know what would be if the reality is different. But we know about one reality. Putin did not invade for the 4 years that Donald Trump was president. Because adversaries of America were scared of Donald Trump. The only people scared of Donald Trump are Americans like me. But the enemies of America are not scared of of Joe Biden. Did I say Donald Trump the first time? Yeah. The only people scared of Joe Biden are people like me. So the least popular president, I believe, at this time of his tenure, which is not here or there necessarily. You could be a great president and not popular. But he acted like there was nothing amiss. The debt that we are giving over to kids, the trillion, what do you think the amount of money spent on green energy in all of its manifestations has been? You think it's reached $1 trillion? Oh yeah, said my producer.
Sure, we're talking about Europe and U.S.
No, United States. The wasted money, the money that could have gone for infrastructure, one of the favorite things that they speak about, cancer research, which he spoke about. It's painful. It's very painful. First day in office, he canceled the XL pipeline to Canada. And then he has the audacity to blame the gas company. I didn't even understand that. Did you see where he blamed the oil companies for not producing enough oil?
Yeah.
How could he do that? How could he do that with a straight face? The whole point is to reduce dependence on oil.
So we need them for 10 years, you said.
Yes, that's when they laughed. We need them for 10 years. The bigger picture I reemphasize is that this country could be in wonderful shape. Under his tenure and because of the policies that his party wanted, like the lockdowns, the amount of damage done to Americans is incalculable. I think the suicide rate is the highest recorded in American history. The death by overdose, by fentanyl, an open border like we have never experienced in American history. All of these things ignored. And all caused by him and his party, which essentially do not want an America that we have had in the past because it was so rotten. So if you can have millions and millions of people come in, I just have two little questions about that. When they need medical care and they go to an emergency room, will we have enough emergency rooms for millions upon millions of new people? Of course we won't. So people who came into the country illegally will go to an emergency room, and you will wait. If you are a citizen of the United States, you will wait. We're not building that many more emergency rooms. We're not graduating that many more doctors for reasons I have never understood. The American Medical Association has not desired to see more medical schools built. If there's anything good about the American Medical Association, I might add, it has eluded me. So yes, listening to that address, you would think things are great. Inflation's coming down, Americans are unemployed. When he speaks about the higher unemployment rate, the jobs he created.
The lower unemployment.
I'm sorry? The low unemployment rate, the high employment rate.
Yeah.
And the amount of jobs he has created. Folks, if Calvin Coolidge were president, we would have created that many jobs, if not more, actually. No matter who would be president. If Kamala Harris or Kamala Harris were president, this would have been created. Because of the artificial suppression of jobs, because of the immoral and unscientific and destructive lockdowns. So, of course, once the lockdowns ended, people would be rehired. I mean, everybody listening knows that. So that was the perspective that he gave. Things are just terrific. It is hard to obtain eggs, or at least the number of eggs that you would like. And the price of eggs is what, doubled or tripled? But if you would hear the president, all is good. I will play you excerpts from the president's State of the Union address. I'm dying to know the ratings. How many people watch this or listen to it compared to others? SOTU's State of the Union addresses.
COVIDtaxrelief.org got a small retail business almost $80,000. COVIDtaxrelief.org got a manufacturing business nearly $250,000. And COVIDtaxrelief.org just got a large distribution business almost $900,000. If you run a business, church, or nonprofit and paid your employees through all or part of the pandemic, you could qualify for up to $26,000 per employee through the government's CARES Act. But beware of clickbait or pay-up-front companies that make you do the work and take a huge percentage of your refund. COVIDtaxrelief.org receives a low, reasonable commission only after you receive your refund. And with 300 CPAs and tax experts, no one is better at getting you the maximum benefit than COVIDtaxrelief.org. Visit COVIDtaxrelief.org now because this plan expires soon. That's COVIDtaxrelief.org, COVIDtaxrelief.org. Refund examples are not a guarantee and not all businesses qualify.
All right, we are going to hear some of the... I'm beginning with, just for your information, how he began to show what a good guy he is, congratulating Republicans as well as Democrats. Would you please play the first clip?
I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy.
One presumes that's the Republican side applauding. Or maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, no, they all stood. That's all right. That's a good moment.
Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, I'm
sure. I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
So it's worth noting. This is more in the realm of inquisitiveness than a commentary on anything. Will there be a time that the left stops noting the first? He is the first minority leader. Is that what he said? The first minority leader. What was the... Oh, yeah, I have it in front of me. The first black... No, he didn't say... Didn't he say... Did he say black?
I don't know. I don't remember him saying that.
That's what the transcript says. I think he said minority... Can you play that again, Sean? I'm very curious about what he actually...
Hakeem Jeffries.
No, you missed. It's 10 seconds before that.
And I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
Okay, the first African... See, the reason the confusion is that I'm reading what the White House gave as transcript, and he deviates. He deviates a lot, yeah. So anyway, so the first African-American... I thought that term was being knocked out by the monitors of vocabulary in America. So he's the first African-American House minority leader. Well, so now I have a philosophical, that was an etymological question, one of language. When will firsts end? I mean, we hear it all the time. And You know, I'll speak personally, which I often do, because I'm a human with a talk show, not a talk show host. So I remember speaking to a very dear relative of mine when it was the Gore ticket with the Senator Lieberman. It was the Gore-Lieberman ticket. And this relative is truly one of the only people I know who alternates at times between voting Republican or Democrat. So I said to him, who are you voting? I asked him, who are you voting for? He said, Gore. And I said, why? Not in a challenging way. I was just curious. And he said, well, Lieberman would be the first Jewish vice president. I remember thinking, I don't know what I said to him, but I remember thinking, so what? This notion of my group will have a first doesn't move me. Just to be honest, it doesn't. I want the best person in the office. I don't care. I don't care if the person's an atheist. And I have contempt for atheism. But if the atheist generally shares my values, that's the one I want. By the way, wouldn't that be funny? And now, ladies and gentlemen, all rise for the first atheist House Minority Leader. How about an agnostic? And now the first agnostic Senate whip. I don't think that they would be happy about that. So what is left? Oh, of course, there are so many more firsts. The first gay House Minority Leader. So what? The bigger so what of all of this is, what good has it done black Americans to have all these blacks in office, in powerful positions? Particularly mayors of the biggest cities and heads of police departments, members of the House. What good has it done blacks? Name me one thing that the average black has benefited from compared to, for example, the white Republican named Donald Trump and what he did for blacks. The notion of ethnic or racial pride, I will admit, has never resonated with me. As a Jew, I took some real risks at a very early age when the Israeli government sent me into the Soviet Union for a month to smuggle in items, religious items, and smuggle out names of Jews who wanted to leave. I have been committed to the welfare of the Jewish people all of my life, but I don't understand this notion of the pride issue. Lieberman is a Jew, so I'll vote for him even if I differ with him. I don't understand that. I understand commitment to peoplehood, but I'm not big on, wow, we have a. I vote purely on the basis of values. I choose friends purely on the basis of values. That's the nicest way to run a life. So I thought I would reflect on this massive emphasis on your racial or ethnic group.
There's a lot of talk about the Great Reset and digital currencies. The U.S. government has been floating the idea of a digital dollar for quite some time, opening up the door to the government controlling your bank account, or worse yet, freezing your money. They did that in Canada, remember? This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion, and for my friend Nick Grovich. Now more than ever in this woke world, it's important to own tangible assets like gold and silver. Owning physical gold and silver gives you control over your wealth. They're proven, stable commodities that have held their value over time, beyond the overarching reach of government. And it's so important you do business with a trustworthy and transparent company like Amfed Coin and Bullion. Amfed's owner, Nick, and his experienced team will always provide you with honest, sound advice. No pressure sales. Moving a portion of your wealth into precious metals is a prudent decision. Call Amfed Coin and Bullion. 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com. AmericanFederal.com. Yeah, Preoccupation is great, by the way. Every show without commercials. And there's a lot of rich stuff said here. It's good for your family to hear. It's all at Preoccupation.com, where you can also get all of my courses, all of my speeches. It's a very rich world. I've devoted a life to thought. And it's all there, Preoccupation.com. So this is that was a big one. I love that. The first African-American House Minority Leader. You know how big that is in the life of the average black American who's now doing high fives with his neighbor. We have a House Minority Leader of our color. I don't think so.
In our systemically racist
country. In our systemically racist country, needless to say. By the way, whenever there is a first Republican black, that they are not only not mentioned, if they are mentioned, they're sellouts. Right. Like Larry Elder, right? Mm-hmm. The black face of white supremacy, according to a vile LA Times writer. A woman of pure hatred. Oh, God. Okay, I got that out of my system. Erica D. Smith, yes. Yeah, I know. You're so right. Oh, what a good point was just made in my earphones. Believe it or not, from Sean McConnell. It's astonishing. How could they keep the word whip? You're so right. If that is not redolent of slavery, what is? What is? House whip. Senate whip. You can't say master bedroom anymore in real estate. You know that, folks. That has been, it's no longer said by realtors. By the way, it's realtors, not realtors. It's no longer said. But house whip? There's no question that has a very short half-life. This is sick stuff. Continue, please. This is the massive cheering for Hakeem Jeffries, first black American.
He won in spite of the fact I campaigned for him. Congratulations to the longest-serving leader in
By the way, that
of the
was a
United
funny
States
line.
Senate.
I will admit, he won despite the fact that I campaigned for him. That was a sardonic line. I like that. I got to give credit where it's due, even though I think he's the worst president in American history. The most damaging. Continue.
Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch?
Another standing ovation from the assembled. Wow.
And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another term as Senate Minority Leader.
Majority
I think
Leader. He got that wrong.
This time you have a slightly bigger majority, Mr. Leader. You're the Majority Leader. About that much bigger? Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be considered the greatest speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi.
Wow, the greatest speaker. Just for the record, has any speaker ever torn up the speech, literally torn it up? Remember that? When Donald Trump gave a State of the Union address, and she sat behind him as the House Majority Leader, as the Speaker, and ripped up his speech so that the world could see her do it. Has any Republican ever done that? They don't care about bringing down the dignity of our institutions.
It is part of being on the left, the destruction of dignity. That's part of the issue, by the way. I know people are, shall we say, annoyed when I raise this. Not people, Democrats. Like it's trivial. All the kids exposed to drag queens. But even that's not, even putting aside the robbing children of their innocence, there's no dignity in it. A man dressing in front of kids in a dress and then doing a partial striptease, which is, I've seen it. I didn't read about it. You want to elevate children. That doesn't. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. Normally, the second hour on Wednesday is the male-female hour. However, since Wednesdays always follow Tuesdays, and Tuesdays are election days, and are they always the State of the Union address? Is it always on a Tuesday? I don't think so. What is that fluctuates. Anyway, whatever the day is after a State of the Union address, I devote the show to analyzing the State of the Union address, Republican or Democrat. So, forgive me, I missed the male-female hour too, but that, God willing, will return next week. In the meantime, I have been analyzing the president's speech. The last thing he said was that we have created a record 12 million new jobs. So I look back, because I analyze every speech, so I have the transcript and my notes from 2 years ago. The 2021 State of the Union address. The economy created more than 1.3 million new jobs in 100 days. Well, that's interesting. He said the economy, not he. Now, that's an interesting point. But he did attribute it to himself. More new jobs in the first 100 days than any president on record. Yes. So it was not the ending of lockdowns. It was he, just like he said last night. I do want to share with you another thing that he said 2 years ago. It's fun to look at these things, where he boasted about the great achievement of the lockdowns. Anyway, I'll find it for you, and I'll get back to that later. I'm going to continue with the president's talk last night. All right, we're up to, oh yes, 2 years ago, our democracy, I played this at the end of the last hour, our democracy faced its greatest threat since the Civil War. He's referring to what the Democrats and the left-wing press have called the insurrection. It was a big lie from the beginning. The first unarmed insurrection, I guess, in modern history.
Modern or ancient?
Or that's a good point, or ancient. That's right. The only people killed were the people who came in. Which has gone unnoted. And it's the officer who shot, what was her name? Ashley what?
Babbitt.
Ashley Babbitt, yeah.
Who was shot?
The officer who shot her
Okay, yeah.
has we know who it is. He has never been charged. The judge, I'm sorry?
He's a hero.
He's a hero, yes, I guess so. It was completely inexcusable morally, but it doesn't matter. She had everything against her. She was a Trump-supporting white, and that's all that matters. Your life is much, much worth less. Your life is worth much less if you are in that category of person. And so the only people who know the name Ashley Babbitt are the people on the right. New York Times readers don't know it. Washington Post readers don't know it, etc., etc. So I said that I think within a day that the left will use January 6th, which I condemned, by the way, the moment I heard about it. Is at the very end of my show. I end my show at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The moment I heard about it, I condemned it. Still do. But it was not an insurrection. That's a big lie. Capital B, capital L. And I said immediately, within a day, they will use it. I wrote a column on it. The Democrats and the left will use it the way the Nazis used the Reichstag fire, to continue repressing freedom while hiding behind emergency powers like the Reichstag fire, and this is their Reichstag fire. We will continue to suppress your liberty, we on the left, because that is what the left does everywhere it is in power. There is no exception from Vladimir Lenin to your local university. That is what the left does. It always suppresses dissent. There is no exception. Liberals do not suppress dissent, and conservatives do not suppress dissent. Leftists do. So they will use and have used the insurrection, the threat to democracy that they claim it was. And now Joe Biden said this last night, the greatest threat since the Civil War. Yeah, the greatest threat since the Civil War. The months and months of violent protests in 2020 were not a threat. No, that's not a threat. The suppression of free speech by social media, that's not a threat. No. The threat was those people who entered the Capitol. To this day, we still need to know why the doors were even opened for them, because they were opened from the inside. Okay, number 4.
In fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president, from reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love.
So I've isolated this, that protects the right to marry the person you love. Well, that's not true. What if you love your brother or sister? Are you allowed to marry your brother or sister? This is a typical left-wing tactic to make what they did so innocuous sounding that who can morally object to anybody having any obstacle before them, legal obstacle to marrying the person they love. But in fact, we do have such obstacles. We have it by age, and we have it by sanguinity, that is, blood ties. Just thought that would be worthy of mentioning. You can't marry somebody you love if you're already married. Why does the state have a right to do that? You don't have a right in this country, or any country, to marry the person you love. You can marry certain people that you love, but not anyone that you love. Most radical redefinition of anything in modern history, in history perhaps, the redefining of marriage, which sounds today so innocuous. So he married a guy, she married a woman. I understand that because some very, very, very close people to my wife and me are gay married people. I completely get it. I adore these people. But the redefinition of marriage was a big deal. And the reason it was a big deal, among others, there were many reasons, but the reason it was a big deal was the argument that the pro-same-sex marriage people offered. And that is, only love matters, gender doesn't matter. And I warned that gender doesn't matter is one of the most frightening ideas in the modern world. And I turned out to be right. Now, your kids are taught not only gender doesn't matter, gender doesn't exist. There is no objective definition to gender or even sex. You are what you think you are. There is no such thing as gender. You're a girl who thinks you're a boy? Come to my office and I will remove your breasts. And then there will be a picture of you with your mastectomy scars featured. Who just featured it? Which the International Burberry, featured that picture. The proud showing off of the removal of her breasts, a topless photo of a male-like chest without breasts. That is a featured photo by Burberry. We live in the age of chaos. All a result of gender doesn't matter. Well, it does. My friends, a food shortage could be coming. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's true. So survival food is important. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriots Survival Food Kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking good for 25 years super survival food. Hand-packed right in a family-owned facility in the USA, giving jobs to over 200 Americans. The kits are compact, sturdy, water-resistant, and stack easily. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners. You can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. Right now, you can go to 4Patriots, that's the number 4, 4patriots.com. Use the code Prager to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store. You get their famous year-long guarantee after your order and free shipping on orders over $97. Just go to 4patriots.com to get 10% off with the code Prager. 4Patriots.com, code Prager. Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. We're continuing with the president's speech. No male, female hour today for that reason. So, continuing with the president's State of the Union address, and he referred to January 6th as our democracy faced its greatest threat since the Civil War. Right. What a lie. Okay, continue number 4. Oh, I did 4, sorry. Number 5.
Of yours to restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country.
I don't know how he says that with a straight face. Let me go. This man who's dedicated to uniting the country, this is what he said 2 years ago at his State of the Union address. We won't ignore what our own intelligence agencies have determined. And you know how trustworthy they are. They're the ones who said Russian collusion, and they're the ones who said Russian disinformation a month before the 2020 presidential election with regard to Hunter Biden's laptop. Okay, continue with that line.
Inflation.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. I'm continuing with the line from 2 years ago. We won't ignore what our own intelligence agencies have determined. The most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today is from white supremacist terrorism. And my fellow Americans, we must come together to heal the soul of this nation. Right? After talking about white supremacism, which, by the way, the Democrats hold is the reason that, was it Ilhan Omar who was kicked off the committee? Yeah. It's white supremacy. That's what AOC said. It was white supremacy. That's why they kicked off Ilhan Omar. An America-hating, radical anti-Semite. I almost call almost no one an anti-Semite. So this is the man who is preaching healing of the country. The things that he has said in office do not exactly lead to that. Okay, let's move. Go back. Start at 6, please, Sean. 6.
Inflation. Inflation has been a global problem because the pandemic disrupted our supply chains, and Putin's unfair and brutal war in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as food supplies, blocking all that grain in Ukraine.
Okay, fine. That's
I
the
promised
reason.
I'd be a president.
Hold on. That's why there's inflation. Not because the civilization suppressing Greens have forced their way into mainstream left-wing parties in the world, and even some so-called conservative ones like Boris Johnson's when he was UK Prime Minister, and have so ended cheap energy that people are now paying terrible prices for everything because everything depends on energy. We were a net exporter, and now we're a net importer because of Biden and the Democrats. So that's it, folks. That's what he tells you. That's the reason for inflation. Not anything I have done with regard to energy. No. Continue.
I promised I'd be a president for all Americans.
Okay, I'll just leave it at that. At least half this country does not feel that he is their president in any moral sense, in any values sense. Of course he's the president. I acknowledge that, period. He is the president of the United States. I don't know a Republican who denies that he is the president of the United States. Is he my president in the sense of reflecting anything that I believe in about America? No, but okay. I have to live with that. Continue.
We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations installed across the country by tens of thousands of IBEW workers. And we're helping families save more than $1,000 a year with tax credits to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy-efficient appliances. Let's face reality.
Wow, okay, hold on. Well, you're going to save more than $1,000 a year with tax credits when you buy electrical vehicles, which are expensive. You understand that all of that money comes from your fellow Americans, specifically your children and grandchildren who will have to pay the debt for all these tax credits to push green, imbecilic policies. New Hampshire just experienced last week the coldest temperatures recorded in American history. This happens so often that I bring to you every winter some record cold. And of course, more people die from cold than from heat. Almost nobody in the world is dying from heat. But it doesn't matter to the left. They have this civilization-destroying idea that we will depend solely on solar and wind, and that we will use child slave labor to build the battery in your electric car, and that we will deplete the world of precious metals that exist overwhelmingly in China. The support of the electric car is the greatest support China can have, as opposed to the vehicle you currently have, which supports American energy. None of this is talked about. Who's going to talk about it? The New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN? CNN isn't even worth mentioning. Nobody watches it to speak of. It's a tragedy. We'll return. Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager with you, going over the President's State of the Union address, as I do
Every year, whoever the president is. All right, we go to number 9.
Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat. Have you noticed?
Okay, hold on. It's an existential threat. That's a lie. He doesn't know it's a lie. I just want you to know he believes it. I think every leftist actually believes the lie, which is much more frightening than if people lie and know it is a lie. There's no hope. When people believe lies that they tell, there's no hope. And the existential threat to the West is from the left. There is no other existential threat at this time. There is a threat to the existence of Western civilization as we have known it, as the best civilization ever developed, with all the rot that existed within it. That's the only existential threat. He and his party pose an existential threat to the United States of America as a beacon of justice and liberty in the world. Existential threat? What are they talking about? All these rich environmentalists who live on the seashore, on the coasts? So that's why I don't even know. Do they believe it's an existential threat? The left's commitment to truth is nil. So when Gavin Newsom said that you must close restaurants and you must, if you are in any place, wear a mask, and then eats in a restaurant maskless at that time, was he lying when he said, shut your restaurant and go out of business, you damn private restaurant owner, for whom I don't give a damn because you are not a Democrat to begin with? Small businesses are notoriously more likely to vote Republican. So what is the answer? Did Nancy Pelosi believe in lockdowns when she went to her hairdresser without a mask? I don't know if they believe their lies. It is one of the enduring riddles of life. Does the lie-based left, like this existential threat, it proves Goebbels was right. You can say anything a lot, like men give birth, and people believe it. It does not matter what you say. There is no objective answer to a mathematical question, is the position of the Oregon Education Department. Kids will soon believe there is no objective answer to how much is 3 and 3. It is a gigantic, enormous, society-crushing lie that climate change poses an existential threat and that it is overwhelmingly induced by humans. The more evidence that we get is that there will be a limit to the amount of warming that will come from carbon dioxide in any event. But this doesn't matter to the left. They don't ask, is it true? They ask, do we believe it? Right. Science tells us that gender is non-binary. Really? Science tells us that? We're not divided into male and female? Is the division between cows and bulls built in? Is the division between male elephants and female elephants built in? Are we the only creature in the world beyond some few cellular microorganisms that has no objective sexual identity? Is that what we're supposed to believe? Yes, that's what you're supposed to believe, and if you don't, you're a hater. It is an existential threat. To whom? Al Gore said we had 12 years to save the world in 1990. Nothing happened. Right? I know the glaciers of Greenland are diminishing. And therefore what?
And therefore you should live in a tiny apartment. Therefore you should stop eating meat. One of the largest supermarket chains in Germany has just said it will stock less meat on its shelves. That's why I've said Germany is always wrong. They're consistent.
The best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier uses proven Oxy technology that quickly destroys viruses, odors, mold, and so much more. With over 265,000 units already sold, you know it works. Works in my house. Any smell will vanish after just a few seconds with the Thunderstorm being on. Odors from litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, dirty diapers, and more are no match. Best of all, no filters are needed. Saves you money and effort. Right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You'll get 3 units for under $200. Put one in your basement, bedroom, family room, kitchen, or anywhere you need clean, fresh air. The Thunderstorm is nearly silent and takes up no floor space. It plugs directly into your wall. Don't breathe dirty air again. Go to EdenPureDeals.com. Put in discount code Prager3 to save $200. That's EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code Prager3. Shipping is free.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here, going over the President's State of the Union address. And you'll be happy to know, if you didn't hear it, that he really focused in on important issues facing the American people. It's the darkest period in American history since the Civil War, almost entirely because of his party and the left. It's assault on children, it's assault on health, it's assault on the economy, it's assault on freedom, and the unprecedented amount of suicide, drug taking, etc. But so he's focused, as I've showed you here, on junk fees and airline fees and bank overdraft fees. So if you bounce a check, he thinks that you should not you should not be charged. What is it now? $30?
Yeah.
It's $30, and he wants it no, that's the credit card late fees is $30. So I don't know what the bank overdraft fees are. So if you bounce a check, which is a pretty bad thing to do, by the way, if you bounce a check, remember, the recipient of your check has been cheated during the time that they thought they were getting an honest check. The bank can live with it, but the recipient, it's a pretty bad surprise, as they say. Of course you should be charged. You should be penalized if you bounce a check. Otherwise, people will bounce more checks. But on the left, penalizing people from doing bad things seems to be a bad idea. What you do is you keep people who entered the Capitol on January 6th in solitary confinement and in horrible conditions, in totalitarian state-like prisons for years, like people that I have had on my show from prison, without charging them. First time in American history we have political prisoners, and he's talking about overdraft fees. I have to control my contempt for the man, and so I won't say anything more about him. Then he goes to resort fees, which I played for you, and cable internet fees. Oh my God, that is one national crisis. It's existential. We're up to capping service fees on tickets to concerts. You want to play that, Sean? It's the middle of 15.
Stop service fees on tickets to concerts and sporting events and make companies disclose all the fees up front. And will prohibit airlines from charging $50 round trip for a family just to be able to sit together.
God, is he a demagogue? What a trivial man is President of the United States. Compared to him, Donald Trump was a giant. Okay, folks? That's a fact. Because I judge people on what they accomplish, not whether I like them. will cap service fees on tickets to concerts. The Congress of the United States is going to take up that issue. Is there anything that they cannot control according to the left? No, and the answer is no. The answer is no. So let's talk about this one. Prohibit airlines from charging up to $50 round trip for families just to sit together. If you buy the absolute cheapest seat on a plane, on many planes, you cannot choose your seat. You have forfeited the right to have a reserved seat. It's somewhat like Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines does not allow you to reserve seats for your family. Why doesn't he take on Southwest Airlines? Right? It's first come, first serve, or they assign you a seat in the case of the other airlines. If you want the cheapest seat, you don't get every benefit of a more expensive seat. You want to sit with your family, get a slightly more expensive economy class seat. You're still not paying for business class or first class. So what is he going to do? So I'll tell you what will happen. If, in fact, the Democrats pass this law to buy more votes, then what will happen is very simple. The airlines will simply jack up the cheapest prices. Because in order to have reserved seats, it will cost them more, and that's what will happen. So you will have a Pyrrhic victory thanks to voting Democrat. All voting of Democrats is a Pyrrhic victory in any event. That this made it into the State of the Union address of a President of the United States is shameful, and the substance itself is shameful. I'm no airline fan, especially now that many of them have announced that it's fine if their male flight attendants wear dresses. But this is absurd. Okay, let's see here. Then he has the non-compete thing. If you're a cashier at a burger place, can't cross the street to take the same job at another place. Okay, another big issue in America. Number 18, please.
And let's guarantee all workers have a living wage.
That's as close to communism as you can get, where the government assesses wages for people. I don't mean minimum wage. I mean now living wage. Wow, what does that mean? It means what the government wants it to mean. Okay, let's go. Oh boy, 19. That's another winner.
So let's finish the job and get more families access to affordable quality housing.
What does that mean? Let's get more families access to affordable and quality housing. Does that mean that they will build places for the homeless, for example, in middle-class neighborhoods? Yes, it does. All right. Let's go to number 21.
Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of the 21st century. We want to have the best educated workforce. Let's finish the job.
How?
By providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old.
Yes.
Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from.
It was debunked like 20 years ago.
Say it again?
It was just totally debunked.
It was debunked 20 years ago. That is correct. It made no difference. But if we can start indoctrinating kids at 2, we're in better shape. Okay, number 22, please.
COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic.
All right, hold on there. COVID didn't leave these scars. Lockdowns did. Okay? You should never say COVID. It's hard to train, but once you get used to it, you will only say before the lockdowns, after the lockdowns, since the lockdowns, prior to the lockdowns. That's what you need to remember. It isn't COVID that left scars, it's the lockdowns. Why aren't there scars in Sweden? Because they didn't lock down. Spike in violent crime is because of the lockdowns. And because of all the hate emanating after the George Floyd death. That's why. Continue, please.
We have an obligation to make sure all people are safe. Public safety depends on public trust, as all of us know. But too often that trust is violated. Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols. Welcome. We had to bury Tyree last week. As many of you personally know, there's no words to describe the heartache or grief of losing a child. But imagine if you lost that child at the hands of the law. Imagine having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street, or playing in the park, or just driving a car. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk that brown and black parents have had to have with their children. Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children. I never had to have the talk with them. I never had to tell them if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away.
Back in a moment. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell with My Pillow is launching the My Pillow 2.0. When Mike invented My Pillow, it had everything you could ever want in a pillow. Now, nearly 20 years later, he discovered a new technology that makes it even better. The My Pillow 2.0 has the patented adjustable fill of the original My Pillow, and now with a brand new fabric that is made with a temperature-regulating thread. The My Pillow 2.0 is the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you'll ever own. For my listeners, the My Pillow 2.0 is buy one, get one free offer with promo code Prager. My Pillow 2.0 temperature regulating technology is 100% made in the USA and comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Just go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listeners square to the buy one, get one free offer. Enter promo code Prager or call 800-761-6302 to get your My Pillow 2.0 now. So he uses the horrible death, and it was horrible from what I saw, of Tyree Nichols, to speak about how bad it is to be a black in America because you have to tell your kids to obey the police anytime they stop your car. And somebody should pass a piece of paper with the data on the number of unarmed blacks killed by the police in any given year. It's in the low 20s. And nearly every one of those is justified because of a threat that an unarmed person could make, like trying to get your gun. Okay, let's go to 23, please.
I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority. But they risk their lives every time they put that shield on. But what happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often.
What does that mean, happens too often? What does that mean? How often does it happen? It almost never happens. He's a liar like we have never had in the presidency. Sorry. What does it mean too often? That what happens to Tyree happened, what happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often. Too often is a meaningless term. Once is too often, correct? So it's a phony claim. It's an attack on police for being racist. It happens almost never.
that an innocent, unarmed black is killed by police. Almost never. He's a hate-filled man because the Democrats run on hate. They call us haters because they hate. Whom do I hate? I hate him. I hate the left. That's true. Do I hate a group? Do I hate any group? Have you ever heard that? In 40 years of broadcasting, what has been the ratio of love to hate in my broadcasts? 99-1? Oh, God. By the way, I've been attacked, of course, as the usual. So tonight in Phoenix should be most interesting. I'm speaking at Arizona State University with Charlie Kirk and Robert Kiyosaki. Did I get his name right? Yeah. He's a wonderful man, by the way. Author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Who attacked, Charlie and I attacked as haters. All right? It happens too often. It's a meaningless, hate-inducing charge from the President of the United States. Let's go on record with that. Number 24.
Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now.
Assault weapon
Once and
is
for
about
all.
as definable as too often. What does it mean? What is an assault weapon? Do you know what an assault weapon is?
Nope. Nobody does.
Nobody does. All right, Sean, are we ready for the next one?
Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
That's on abortion.
But let's also pass the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially transgender young people, can live with safety and dignity.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what it means, actually. Does it mean that if you don't buy into the preferred pronouns, you can be charged with a hate crime? What does it mean? Wow. Let's go to 27.
The last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test in this very room on January the 6th. And then just a few months ago, an unhinged big lie, assailant unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, using the very same language the insurrectionists used as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th.
God, is he a
Let's all
demagogue?
speak
He's
out.
such a demagogue. It's painful. This crackpot who went into the Pelosi home, he did it because of January 6th. He's a hate-filled man, this man. He foments hate. That's all he does. What if a Republican had said, did you hear about the black guy who just hit a guy, a doctor, this doctor in, was it California, right? With his car, and then walked over and stabbed him to death while allegedly mumbling anti-white things? Stuff he's heard from the Democrats about white supremacy. Did you hear that? Imagine if a Republican did that. The Democrats and the New York Times, which are identical, would go apoplectic. This is the way they foment hate and then speak. Let's have unity. I look forward to working with Kevin McCarthy. All right. What's our timing, Mr. Sean? We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. And again, go to DennisPrager.com. You can get tickets for tonight, if there still are, at Arizona State University. The more that come, the more we defeat the professors who want to shut us up. All right, so I played for you many excerpts from President Biden's speech, and now we go to Sarah Huckabee Sanders' response on behalf of the Republicans. Take it away.
Being a mom to 3 young children taught me not to believe every story I hear. So forgive me for not believing much of anything I heard tonight from President Biden. From out-of-control inflation and violent crime to the dangerous border crisis and threat from China, Biden and the Democrats have failed you. They know it, and you know it. And it's time for a change. Tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to a timeless American idea that government exists not to rule the people, but to serve the people. Democrats want to rule us with more government control, but that's not who we are. America is the greatest country the world has ever known because we're the freest country the world has ever known, with a people who are strong and resilient.
Well, that's exactly right. That's the uniqueness of America. The government controls you as little as possible. The left everywhere on earth wants the government to control you as much as possible. Here's a little, what should we say, anecdote of history. The 100 million people murdered, the innocents, I'm talking about citizens, not combatants even, murdered in the 20th century were all murdered by big government, with the exception of the Hutus murdering the Tutsis. Big government is not a blessing. Everything big, except the big God, is a curse. Just the way it works out. Big means corrupt. Big means control. That's what it means. You a bigger truster in small business or big business? Even school teachers say, we don't want big classes, we want small classes. But they want big teachers' unions. Continue, please.
I'll be the first to admit, President Biden and I don't have a lot in common. I'm for freedom, he's for government control. At 40, I'm the youngest governor in the country. And at 80, he's the oldest president in American history. I'm the first woman to lead my state, and he's the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob that can't even tell you what a woman is.
Good one.
In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices, empty grocery shelves, and our children are taught to hate one another on account of their race.
That's right.
But not to love one another or our great country. Whether Joe Biden believes this madness or is simply too weak to resist it, his administration has been completely hijacked by the radical left. The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy. It's time for a new generation of Republican leadership. Upon taking office just a few weeks ago, I signed executive orders to ban CRT, racism, and indoctrination in our schools, eliminate the use of derogatory term Latinx in our government, repealed COVID orders, and said never again to authoritarian mandates and shutdowns. Americans want common sense from their leaders, but in Washington, the Biden administration is doubling down on crazy. President Biden inherited the fastest economic recovery on record, the most secure border in history, cheap, abundant, homegrown energy, fast rising wages, a rebuilt military, and a world that was stable and at peace. But over the last 2 years, Democrats destroyed it all. Despite Democrats' trillions in reckless spending and mountains of debt, we now have the worst border crisis in American history.
All right, hold on there. We'll continue. That's right. It's all correct. It's not between right and left. It's between normal and crazy. And they think we're crazy. I'm continuing with Sarah Huckabee Sanders' Republican response to the president. Continue, please.
History. As a mom, my heart breaks for every parent who has lost a son or daughter to addiction. 100,000 Americans a year are now killed from drug overdoses, largely from fentanyl pouring across our southern border. Yet the Biden administration refuses to secure the border and save American lives. And after years of Democrat attacks on law enforcement and calls to defund the police, violent criminals roam free, while law-abiding families live in fear.
That's right. Nothing to say. It's entirely accurate. Continue.
Every day we are told we must partake in their rituals, salute their flags, and worship their false idols, all while big government colludes with big tech to strip away the most American thing there is, your freedom of speech. That's not normal. It's crazy, and it's wrong.
That's exactly right. I like that. Worship their false idols. Right up my alley. That's right. We must partake in their rituals. That's right. I spoke to you about the New York Rangers. The hockey team would not wear the Pride Night jerseys, PNJs, the Pride Night jerseys. It's not enough for you to tolerate people with whom you differ. You must celebrate them. That's the totalitarian nature of the left. You must take pride in men who wear women's clothing. It's not enough to tolerate them. You have to take pride in them. That's what she's talking about. Number 4, please.
I'm proud of the progress our country has made. And I believe giving every child access to a quality education, regardless of their race or income, is the civil rights issue of our day. Tomorrow, I will unveil an education package that will be the most far-reaching, bold, conservative education reform in the country. My plan empowers parents with real choices, improves literacy and career readiness, and helps put a good teacher in every classroom by increasing their starting salary from one of the lowest to one of the highest in the nation. Here in Arkansas and across America, Republicans are working to end the policy of trapping kids in failing schools and sentencing them to a lifetime of poverty. We will educate, not indoctrinate our kids, and put students on a path to success.
Yeah, you would think that anyone who cares about kids would vote Republican. Just on the COVID issue alone, and on the school choice issue alone. And finally, number 5.
America is great because we are free. But today, our freedom is under attack, and the America we love is in danger. President Biden and the Democrats have failed you, and it's time for a change. A new generation of Republican leaders are stepping up, not to be caretakers of the status quo, but to be change makers for the American people. We know not what the future holds, but we know who holds the future in his hands. And with God as our witness, we will show the world that America is still the place where freedom reigns and liberty will never die.
Bless her soul. She did a piece for PragerU. You should watch it. It's called, the series is called Stories of Us. Yeah, it's a powerful piece. We have very warm relations with her. That's right. It's all about freedom. So those are the two addresses. But if you're really angry about the $50 fee to pick your seat when you buy the cheapest ticket on an airline, Joe Biden's your man. So you want to import oil from foreign countries rather than produce it here, Joe Biden's your man. If you want to back the process of giving children hormone blockers, Joe Biden's your man. If you're a big fan of letting girls decide to have their breasts cut off at the age of 18 and sometimes earlier because they say they're a boy, Joe Biden is your man. If you want government to get bigger and bigger, Joe Biden is your man. If you believe that big tech should suppress what he declares misinformation, Joe Biden is your man. And here's another piece of work. LeBron James, who was honored last night. It's not called Staples Center anymore. What is it called? Crypto Arena? What does crypto make? Crypts? Cryptocurrency? Have enough money to get the name on the arena? All right, anyway, it's where the Los Angeles Lakers play. And he apparently, he broke the record for points, most points scored in NBA history. An a-hole of a man and a great basketball player. It's the way it works in life. It doesn't always work that way. It could work in any profession. A-hole of a man and a great doctor, an a-hole of a man and a great composer. They're not related. And when we come back, I'll play for you his final words before the audience, symbolic of the decline that is so easily engaged in society. You'll hear it in a moment.
The Dennis Prager Show.
Strangled by the wishes of fate.
LeBron James broke the record for points scored as a basketball player in the NBA. Last night it happened. This is how he ended the salute by the fans to him.
I thank you guys so much for allowing me to be a part of something I've always dreamed about. And I would never, ever in a million years dreamt this even better than what it is tonight. So, man, thank you guys.
Okay, so, of course, it was beeped out. F-man. It was not bleeped out on national television? Really, why not? Because it was live. That's a good point. That's the reason. So I brought to your attention another example of the degradation of society by a colossal nothing who was mayor of Los Angeles. I mean, truly, a man who gave new meaning to the word nothing. Eric Garcetti, mayor of Los Angeles, and when the Los Angeles Kings finally won the Stanley Cup in 2014, to a very large audience at then Staples Center and on television, many of them young people, he said as follows.
There are two rules in politics. They say never, ever be pictured with a drink in your hand and never swear. But this is a big day. Way to go, guys.
Well, I played that. Okay, I played that for you when it happened. More depressing to me than this is a big effing day and his bottle of beer was the cheers. Reminded me of the cheers when Barack Obama said, "We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America." And good middle-class Americans cheered their brains out.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Yes. Well, He has. He and his party have fundamentally transformed it. Are you still applauding? It is one thing when people use the F word in private speech to one another or in a joke. But for a mayor or a star athlete, imagine Lou Gehrig having said that when he was honored at Yankee Stadium. Remember that? It's very famous. The dignity. The left has destroyed all those standards. And it's we're paying the price. But we can undo the damage if we fight. I'm Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager here. Thanks for listening to the Daily Dennis Prager Podcast. To hear the entire 3 hours of my radio show, commercial-free, every single day, become a member of Pragertopia. You'll also get access to 15 years' worth of archives, as well as the daily show prep. Subscribe at pragertopia.com.